Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to the channel. My name's Joey. If this is the first time watching one of my videos, do me a favor, make sure you go subscribe. Since his loss to Dustin Poirier, Conor McGregor has become increasingly unhinged. He was acting like a maniac before the fight. He's done some questionable things after the fight. I was debating about making a video about this when I stumbled upon a well-respected MMA coach that said he heard with his own ears Conor McGregor threaten the lives of Dustin Poirier's kids, which I think is absolutely unacceptable. And if it was any other fighter, he would be cut from the UFC. Imagine if this was a prelim fighter threatening somebody's kids. I'm going to play many clips for you. I'm going to show you that clip as well. But in the lead up to this fight, Conor McGregor was really trying to hype himself up. He was really upping the, trash talk against Dustin Poirier. He said multiple times, he's a dead man in that cage. And I tend to be okay with fighters saying certain things, but that's one of those ones that's just right over the line. You know what I mean? Because fighting is dangerous. You never know when you're punching each other in the head, somebody could really die. And I just didn't think that was a good thing to say, considering, if that were to happen, by some chance, Conor McGregor was to knock out Dustin Poirier, and then he was to die. Could you imagine? Not only would that probably ruin the UFC, and I know that sounds crazy because they're such a big company, but that would ruin Conor McGregor. I don't know if he'd ever be able to fight again after something like that. It would ruin his reputation, what little of it exists at this point in time. But I just thought that was too far. But it is what it is. Guys say some crazy stuff in the lead up to the fights. But this new information about him threatening the lives of Dustin Poirier's kids is just absolutely insane. I'm also going to show you some cell phone footage of Conor McGregor in the cage right after the Poirier loss, after he broke his leg. But first, let me show you some of the trash talk that was before the fight at the UFC weigh-ins the day before. So here that is. Check it out.
I'm here with Conor McGregor. Conor, this is an immense fight, a huge fight for your career, a huge fight for the sport. What does tomorrow night mean to you?
Joe, in 16 hours' time, this man is gonna learn that if you disrespect a person's kindness and take it as a weakness, you must pay. Tomorrow night, I'm gonna make this man pay with his life, and I mean it. You're dead in that octagon tomorrow night.
So there you go, Conor McGregor telling Dustin Poirier, tomorrow night you're going to pay with your life. And I mean it. And I just think that is just crazy. But I would have never made a video about it without these other circumstances. And I just think, Conor McGregor, look how crazy he was acting before the fight. He really wanted this win desperately. He's a guy that's a little bit delusional every time he loses. He is sportsmanlike on the night of the fight. Usually, he wasn't in this trilogy fight with Dustin Poirier. And then the days and weeks and months after the fact, it's nothing but excuses. And in this fight, I knew that if he lost, regardless of how he lost, all hell was going to break loose. And we saw, what happened in the fight. I'll go over it briefly. Dustin Poirier dominated Conor McGregor for about 3 to 4 minutes of the first round. Conor looked good for the first 30 seconds to a minute, was chopping the leg. Eventually, Dustin Poirier landed some strikes on the feet, and Conor initiated the clinch, which I find hilarious because he was saying the first one to shoot's a dusty bitch before the fight. Obviously, that wasn't really a shot, but he was engaging the grappling, which I just thought was hilarious. Basically the same thing. Conor McGregor obviously gets up the last 15 seconds of the fight. People have debated about when the fracture happened to the leg. I have no idea. There's so many different theories out there. You guys can go check that out. But either way, in the last minute, Conor McGregor, or the last 30 seconds really, Conor McGregor fractures his leg. The fight stopped. And then all hell broke loose in the cage. It was crazy. Dustin Poirier was kind of mocking him a little bit. Conor McGregor was saying some crazy stuff. And it came out after the fight. Dustin Poirier was saying, and we all heard the post-fight interview from Conor McGregor saying, your wife's in my DMs, which first off, I think that's so childish. Second off, you notice how Conor McGregor never showed the DM? Because it was probably referring to that $500,000 donation that he was supposed to donate to Dustin Poirier's charity and never did, because I think he was salty that he got brutally KO'd by Dustin Poirier in that second fight. So anyway, Dustin said after the fight, and Dustin seems like an honest guy. You never know, but he just seems like he's always given honest assessments of the fights, and he just doesn't seem like a guy who's making shit up. He said after the fight, Conor was making, gun signs to the head and saying, you and your wife are going to die in your sleep and stuff like that. And people were like, what's going on here? Is this really true? Well, some cell phone footage from the event came out. And it basically showed that. It's a little hard to hear, but if you listen closely, you can basically hear, Conor McGregor saying what Dustin Poirier implies that he's saying. So here we go. Check that out.
I am here with the winner, Dustin Poirier. Dustin, first of all, congratulations on a very impressive victory. You and Conor are going. I would go here as well, but I want your thoughts on the fight.
So there you hear it. You can make out in your sleep you're getting it. And at one point, he even puts the finger to his head like he's shooting a gun, which is just totally uncalled for. And I know people are going to give Conor an excuse. They're going to say, well, he just broke his leg. I don't think anybody says stuff like this. That's just not right. What is this guy in the mob? I'm surprised. I'm wondering, can somebody check and see if that old man from the bar is still alive? The one that he punched a senior citizen. So I think Conor McGregor, in his career and for his legacy, because of his star power, just gets away with stuff that nobody else would get away with. This is completely ridiculous. Nobody in the history of the UFC, I don't ever remember saying stuff like this, basically threatened to come after him outside of the cage, not in a fight, that he's going to kill him. And supposedly he says, you in the missus in your sleep, which I just thought was absolutely insane. But I just, kind of chalked it up that that's Conor being Conor, whatever. And I wasn't even going to ever talk about it or make a video unless I talked about it in one of my live chats. But then some more stuff came out. And somebody commented on my channel, on one of my videos, and let me know about this. And it was Conor McGregor's tweets. And I'm going to show them to you here in a second. Conor McGregor tweeted out pictures of Dustin and his family, followed by a tweet that says Gonzo. Now, a lot of people are saying this was a death threat. And it may have been. I don't know. You take it for what you will. I'm not going to, really decipher it too much. But it seemed like it to me. And I just think maybe Conor had a poor choice of photos here, picking one of Dustin Poirier with his daughter. But still, absolutely, completely uncalled for. And I just think for a guy who just lost a fight, you were just stretchered out of the cage, maybe, you can excuse some of those post-fight comments by saying, oh, my leg was broken, I wasn't in the right mind, and maybe you could come out with an apology after the fight. Because if you remember in the post-fight interview, which I haven't played for you, he called Dustin Poirier's wife a bitch and a hoe, which is crazy. Like, who is doing that? She has nothing to do with it, and you're calling her those types of names in the cage, in front of all these cameras, which is just insane. Conor McGregor should be punished by the UFC. I believe 100% that any other fighter would have been cut already. But the craziest thing that I found while I was searching around about UFC 264 was Firas Zahabi was doing a UFC 264 breakdown, and he said he was at the press conference and he heard Conor McGregor say that he was going to bury Dustin and his kids, which is just absolutely over the line. UFC needs to do something about this. They need to set a precedent. I know Conor has done stuff like this before, talking about Khabib's wife, talking about Khabib's religion, and there's just some things that are out of bounds, and that's one of them. And I think it's ridiculous. I want to see the UFC do something about it. I have a feeling that they're never going to do anything about it, or they'll say they fined him and, not really fine him. But let me play the clip for you of Firas Zahabi.
It was so embarrassing. Well, he said at the press conference, I heard this with my own ears, guys. He said, I'm going to bury you and your whole team and your bitch-ass kids. Please excuse my language. And your bitch-ass kids. Like, he's going after kids now.
So there you heard it from Firas Zahabi. I'm going to bury you and your whole team and your bitch-ass kids. And he specifically says, I heard this with my own ears. Why would he make this up? There's no reason that he would make this up. This is completely outlandish and out of bounds, even for Conor McGregor. I don't care what kind of star power he has. You should not be allowed to say those types of things. And I know a lot of people are going to say, the UFC shouldn't be able to punish him. It's free speech. Free speech protects you from punishment from the government. And I'm not saying Conor McGregor should be punished from the government, but you can be punished by your employer. Conor McGregor works for the UFC, and I know technically he's an independent contractor, but the UFC has a code of conduct policy, and they fine people for stuff before, whether it be the Diaz brothers for this or that, or other guys for, certain outfitting violations. They're fining guys for wearing the wrong shirts and wrong shorts, not authorized by their sponsors. but they're not going to do something about Conor McGregor's threatening to bury Dustin Poirier's kids. Just absolutely disgusting. I, for one, would never wish an injury on any one of these fighters. They go in the cage to entertain us, and I always want them to come out safe and healthy. But I have to say, regarding Conor's leg break and being stretchered out of the cage, it could not have happened to a nicer person. It was disgusting the way he was acting before the fight, and he just ramped it up even worse after the fight. So let me know in the comments what you guys think about all this. I just wanted to compile a video because I just thought it was worthy of talking about. Nobody else is talking about it. The MMA media is scared to talk about it because they don't want to get blackballed by the UFC or Conor McGregor. They expect interviews from him if he ever fights again, and he's their big star. They got to write stories about him and get clicks. So let me know in the comments what you guys think about all this information. I'm personally disgusted. I think at the bare minimum he should be fined. Any other fighter would have definitely been cut from the UFC. So let me know what you think. Please like the video. If you're not subscribed, make sure you subscribe, and thank you so much for watching.